Greetings, travelers. Competitors are joining us from all around the globe this week as we reach the final days of the Hearthstone World Championship. I'm your host, Seltzer, and along with Frodan and our broadcast team, we'll be bringing you 4 days of Hearthstone action before we meet back up with you at BlizzCon on November 6th and 7th, Dan.
Yeah, that's right, Rachel. We here have gathered 16 players from around the globe in California, representing each of the 4 regions. And while they're already guaranteed a piece of the prize, the ultimate goal is to become the Hearthstone 2015 World Champion. Only one can claim the glory, the prestigious title, and $100,000 US.
Absolutely. We're going to see half of the players make their opening weekend debut today, with the remaining 8 players appearing for the first time tomorrow. Today's matches are going to be Thijs versus NoTomorrow up first, and then it's Kranich versus Life Coach, Love CX versus Ostkaka, and Purple versus Pinpingho. All 4 of the regions are joining us at the World Championship. We have Americas, Europe, Asia Pacific, and China. These 4 days are going to feature some of the toughest international competition we've seen to date.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the most cool things that we get to feature at this tournament is how rare it is for all these regions you mentioned to be featured in one tournament. There's going to be a clash of styles, metagames, strategies, and each player will have a unique set of decks that I think everyone's going to be excited to see how it ends up playing for them. More specifically, each group has also each one player from every region, so it's going to be very surprising to see how it's going to turn out and who's going to come out the victor.
Absolutely. We sat down with these players to get their thoughts on the strength of their respective regions here at the World Championship.
For BlizzCon, Europe has some of the strongest players.
APAC might be the strongest one, and it will just beat every other region.
很多选手都不了解中国赛区，但是我觉得中国赛区是一个非常有年轻，然后非常有活力，而且实力非常强的一个赛区。
The American competitive scene for Hearthstone is probably the #1 in the world.
But I feel like overall the Asian players are going to be more scared to go against the NA and Europe players.
Besides Europe, I'd say NA is the strongest region, but I think that the Asian scene actually has a lot of talent, and it's just a matter of time before they actually catch up and even maybe surpass us.
中国赛区特别的地方就在于它选手比较多，天梯环境会比较复杂，对比其他赛区来说，天梯环境会比较复杂。 更适合选手的磨练。
I think the region that I don't want to face first is probably NA, but that is because I know most of the NA players. I know how the NA meta is. I know the playstyle.
There's been an ongoing battle between NA and EU as to which region's better. But in terms of the top, the creme of the cream of the cream, definitely we have the best thing. It's not close.
台湾区的预选。 取得挑战权吧。
If I have to pick one region, of course I say Europe.
虽然太子说，在欧洲赛区比嘉年华更加的难，但是我认为太子虽然强，但是如果我在8强遇到他的话，我的这个卡组在各方面都有一定优势，并且最后能获得胜利。
Everyone seems extremely confident, but I gotta say the EU players really stood out as really having that swagger. What do you think?
I think Europe has always been very confident. Across all Blizzard titles, they've always been a very strong region to overcome. But specifically, the 4 players that come out of Europe this year have been absolutely titanic in their results, and they're coming in as the favorites. However, I think one region you can't always underestimate is China. They have a pool of hundreds of thousands of players that's very difficult to overcome, so getting here to BlizzCon is quite the achievement already. And of course, North America, always on the tag of Europe. I can't underestimate them. And then the last region, of course, is Asia Pacific. They're the wild card. What are they going to do? I'm not sure exactly what.
Well, before they can make their way to the finals next week, our 16 players will have to battle it out over the next 4 days in 4 double elimination groups with a best-of-5 conquest format. Our stage is set, Dan, and we're ready for our first match, brought to you, of course, by Brian Kibler, Kriparian, and Savitz. Boys, take it away.
Thank you, Rachel. The excitement here among the players, us on the desk, and everyone backstage is electric. Turns out the World Championship is pretty good. And it's not only the biggest and most prestigious tournament, but it's also a celebration of the players and community. And well, I can't contain the hype just by myself. So joining me here at the desk is a man so great we had to name him twice. Brian Kibler. And joining us from Finland is, of course, Savitz. How are you two doing?
I'm doing great. I've casted a lot of events, but this is the big one. We have 16 amazing players from around the world, and the matches are guaranteed to be amazing.
Yeah, it's going to be great seeing how the regions line up. There's a lot of players from the Americas and Europe who we've seen in competitive play quite a bit, but the players from China and the APAC region haven't really had the chance in as many cases to make a name for themselves, at least for those who are familiar with watching events.
That's right. And I mean, with the event being absolutely, the absolute peak of competition, these players from all the regions are going to bring their absolute best. So we're going to see, how that varies and how they interact with each other. But speaking of that, let's take a look at our groups for the week. We have, as we mentioned, player from each region in each one of the 4 groups. Here in Group A, we have NoTomorrow, Thijs, Jab, and No. And in Group B, we have Kranik, Life Coach, Nias, and Zoro. Group C, we have Love CX, Ostkaka, Hotform, and Nelio. And in Group D, Pinpinho, Purple, Daimeng, and Naria. So quite the lineup we have for you guys. It should be a great tournament here. The goal is to basically prep us up for BlizzCon. We got to drop half the players out of the tournament, and we'll really get to see which regions come out first. What do you guys think? Who should come out on top here? Is it the Europeans?
Well, I'm from the Europe, and I think that Europe is definitely one of the strongest. We saw it in the video that all of the regions, they think that their region is one of the strongest, if not the strongest. But I mean, a lot of the Europeans tend to play on Asian server, tend to play on the North American server, and that's because they think it's easier on those. So I think that says a lot.
I mean, it is true that the North American and European players have a lot more sort of high-level tournament experience that we know about. But the players, as they're saying, in China, there's a huge number of players in the Asian regions. So it's difficult to say that based on the fact that we who watch tournaments all the time on Twitch, we see Nyria and Life Coach and Thijs. We see them all the time, but we don't really know about all the successes of the other players who are here from the other regions.
Yeah, often fame does not correlate with your ability to win a tournament, in fact. But sometimes it does. Thijs is actually known as one of the best players in the world, and he is going to be in our upcoming match against NoTomorrow. And they had a few words about each other, so let's have a look at that and maybe get a better opinion.
I am Thijs Molendijk, known as ThijsNL, 21 years old from the Netherlands, and I'm playing for Gamers2.
看看我的 ID， 明天不见，所以你也没有明天的。我的第一个选手就是太子，我对他的印象中，其实在除中国区选手以外，我对他印象应该是最好的了，因为我原来也经常看他的视频以及比赛，我也算是原来还没有成为职业选手之前的话，我也相当算是他一个粉丝。
He is one of the Chinese players that I know a bit about. I know what kind of decks he likes, so yeah, I think I'm fine and well prepared.
我希望在比赛中能找到他的失误。然后我就会抓住这些失误，然后对他发起致命一击。
I'm not going here to survive the group, so I really want to win the tournament, and that's why I'm just taking a lot of risk. I'm pretty sure people didn't expect this lineup from me.
Kranich versus Light.
No. Bring the stream down. All right. Well, here are the players shaking hands, getting ready to kick off their games. The interview was very revealing. I mean, Thijs didn't show as much respect for NoTomorrow as NoTomorrow sent back Thijs' way, but it was still pretty amazing. I'm always curious to see how the players, for the first time on a very big tournament that is really shown worldwide, react and how they play. Often you see them, they're very nervous, but in his interview, NoTomorrow seemed very calm, very deliberate. There is no tomorrow for any of his opponents.
Yeah, I love that little catchphrase from him. It was fantastic. But Thijs, he was saying he's not here to just beat beat NoTomorrow. He's not here to win his group. He's here to win BlizzCon. So, you know, and he was saying he didn't think his opponents would expect his lineup, and I don't think anyone really would have.
Yeah, I mean, Thijs is famous for his druids. We have 13 druid players in the tournament, and Thijs is not one of them. Instead, he's the only player in the top 16 to be playing priest.
Yeah,
I can respect that. I can respect that.
Yeah, Thijs, I had the chance to. We actually ate breakfast together with Thijs this morning, and I don't want to reveal too much in case some of his decks maybe don't get revealed, but what I can say, and might be obvious to more experienced players, is that Thijs with his lineup is targeting the aggressive decks.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit behind the scenes. So there are two kind of approaches to the tournament. It seems that there is, in this case, we actually have a good example of it. NoTomorrow is playing Druid, very powerful deck. He's playing Hunter, very powerful deck, and Paladin, what is most likely Mysterious Challenger Paladin, also a very powerful deck. While Thijs is taking the approach of instead playing, you know, just top decks, rather he's trying to target a specific game style, because in Conquest mode, you have to win with every deck, and he's really trying to punish that idea.
One of the strategies that you will often see in Conquest is players trying to aim at a particular type of deck, not necessarily a specific deck. Sometimes, you know, if, say, there's a deck that's incredibly popular, you think that all of your opponents will play it, maybe you'll target that exact deck, like maybe, you know, Patron Warrior or Handlock in previous metagames. But here, Thijs's lineup looks like it's targeted specifically against aggressive strategies. And we've heard that NoTomorrow is actually well known in China for playing aggressive decks. So this could actually work out very well for Thijs.
Yeah, Thijs was actually expecting to see a face hunter from NoTomorrow, and if that's the case, all of Thijs's decks are probably going to be quite good against that, since that was what he was hoping for.
And we see Dread Corsair in Thijs's opening hand here in this Warrior versus Druid matchup. Thijs is a player who I believe is likely, I mean, that's even more indication of it, likely to still be playing Patron Warrior despite the changes to Warsong Commander.
There it was. Cream Patrons. 1 week ago we saw a change go live to Warsong Commander, which kind of hurt the strategy overall quite a bit, but some players...
Considerably, yes.
Considerably, yeah. But some players, like Thijs, we see it here, is still considering the deck to be worth bringing to the big stage.
In the matchup against Druid, specifically with Patron Warrior, the most powerful card in the deck was always Grim Patron. The ability to generate a large number of Grim Patrons by damaging them with effects like Inner Rage, Whirlwind, the Death Rattle trigger of Deathspite, and make a huge board of just 3/3 minions. That was what was powerful in that matchup. So,
and it's actually that strategy that's forward in the new Grim Patron, because when you take cards out from the charge combos, the Warsong Commanders, the Frothings, you can put in more defensive or cards that allow you to better set up that situation.
Yeah, so the previous iteration of the Grim Patron Warrior deck used big hits from charged Frothing Berserkers thanks to Warsong Commander. With the change to Warsong Commander no longer giving charge to minions, you can't do that anymore. But you can still use your self-damage effects to generate a huge board of Grim Patrons, which is very difficult for Druids to remove, because the removal largely revolves around things like Swipe, which would just make more Grim Patrons in many cases.
Another thing that I've heard about this this new version of Patron is that it actually might be even better than the old one was, against Druid in particular, since a lot of players have been mixing in the piloted shredders, which allows you to not lose the board control too badly early on.
Yeah, a lot of the cards that you frequently see in this new version, like you include Piloted Shredder, some of them will also just include Dr. Boom, Gramash, you know, just powerful late game cards, which again are very strong in a matchup against a deck like Druid, whereas the sort of plan of the one-turn kill wasn't really ever what you were looking for in that matchup.
Yeah, Gramash does seem to be always included in some of the decks that I've seen, and I think the reasoning is you kind of write off the wins against control decks without your charge combo, but if you have Grommash, it suddenly, you know, the mid-range decks where you're able to sneak in some damage, you have that win condition still.
Right, and here Thijs is looking at Deathspite and a Grim Patron already. Only thing he's really missing would be the Inner Rage, and with that he could be able to produce 4 Grim Patrons on turn 5 already, which would be one of the most powerful things, if not the most powerful thing you can do against a Druid early on.
But from the Druid side, he's able to get an Emperor on turn 5 here with the coin, and that's kind of a big deal. He has a lot of important cards. He has one combo piece. He's got the Ancient of Lore. He's got the Druid of the Claw to kind of stop some of that patron abuse a little bit.
Yeah, NoTomorrow here, looking at the Coin Emperor, which usually would be the best play you can do this early on, but there's also the Death Spite, and the Death Spite is going to clean it up quite nicely. He is still going to go for it, gets at 5 mana, gets 5 discounts on all of his cards in his hand right now.
Yeah, I think if his card was poorer quality, he probably wouldn't have made this play because the Death Spite counters it so well, but his hand really just has very, very good pieces.
This also does put Tice in a position where he effectively has to attack with this Death Spite this turn, because Tice doesn't have that Inner Rage. If Tice had Inner Rage, he'd obviously want to play you know, the Patron Inner Rage attack with the Death Spite, trigger the Whirlwind effect. But now NoTomorrow is basically forcing him to do that.
Yeah, very strong play from NoTomorrow. Getting to play the Ancient of Lore next turn, even if well, obviously it's going to die. They will lose that Emperor for now, but it's not too bad. There are just more minions to come. There will be the Ancient of Lore, there's still the Druid of the Claw. And Thijs starts drawing, picks up a Whirlwind for the Grim Patron, but still no Inner Rage. That's the one card he's missing.
I like this play from Tice. He could have played the Grim Patron and just made an additional Patron by attacking with it. Here, though, he's able to draw 3 cards off of Battle Rage because he's able to retain the mana that he would have invested in the Grim Patron. Making just 2 Grim Patrons, especially against an opponent who has just gotten a discount from the Emperor, is generally going to leave them with a board they can clear fairly easily. You want to get more than that at once.
And that's a big problem, more so now rather than before, because before you had multiple win conditions, where here you really just need to spawn a bunch of patrons.
Yeah.
And if you play patron and it gets countered immediately, it's not just that you're being wasteful, you're literally throwing your win condition.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect anything less than 4 patrons coming out on the turn that the patron gets played. So you want to split it twice. Whirlwind, Inner Rage, that's one way to do it. Or another way would be the Unstable Ghoul and the Whirlwind, but the Unstable Ghoul, as we see, it's going to go down here. NoTomorrow drawing for some more cards.
Yeah, and often in NoTomorrow's position, you wouldn't necessarily want to expose your Shade to just be able to die in this position like it is now against his Armorsmith or against something like a Whirlwind effect. But he recognizes that if he plays any minion into the board, and Tice does have a Grim Patron, that Ghoul would give him an additional Whirlwind effect that would spawn additional patrons.
Oh yeah, very threatening. It's a smart play to take it out here. So Thijs still unable to get as many patrons as he would like to.
Yeah, it seems like the best play here would be like the Death Spite Whirlwind, but then you lose your Whirlwind, and this is kind of what you were trying to set up to do, and it makes it a bit more challenging to make that decision right away.
Yeah, the Whirlwind is really powerful here. He could play something like maybe the Acolyte of Pain, Whirlwind, and Execute or Battle Rage for some more cards.
He should fire War Axe if he does that, right?
Oh, that also works. Ah, it wants to draw more. I think it's digging for the Inner Rage in particular. Let's see if he finds it. Still not finding it. Whips the Death Spite. This is interesting to see where he goes with it. The Shade is something that he probably wants to take out since he has an opportunity to do it right here.
Okay, well, it looks like Thijs is going to concede to a lot of damage here. The idea, hitting the Ancient Lord but not killing it, is getting at 1 HP. He plans on doing that 1 damage next turn from the Death Spite Death Rattle.
Oh yeah, it will certainly happen. But NoTomorrow has some place here. He definitely wants to add more minions to the board right now. With 7 mana, the most mana efficient thing would be to play the Shade and either the Shredder or the Druid of the Claw. But the Shade seems a bit shaky because there could be another Whirlwind effect in Thijs' hand, and then the Shade would get absolutely nothing done.
Yeah, that seems like an extremely high-risk play. I feel like the Druid of the Claw is kind of in that same boat, though. If there is another Whirlwind effect, it kills the taunt form.
He is going to go for the Shade. Thijs is certainly happy about this. He wanted to play the Whirlwind and do the Death Spite Whirlwind next turn.
Anyway,
this is going to go...
Charge is much better here, because as we talked about how just 1 Whirlwind clears both minions, well, you might as well get 4 damage extra.
Yeah. And here we go. This should be the Patron's turn. With that Whirlwind effect from the Death Spite, another one in his hand, he will be able to produce those 4 Patrons. He's even going to have 1 mana remaining afterwards, so he could go for the Execute on the Druid of the Claw to save some of his HP.
Yeah, Thijs has to be very careful about his health total here, because he is getting pretty low. He's down to 18. If he were to attack the Druid of the Claw and not gain any armor, he could have 14. That's kind of the magic number in the Druid matchup, because the combination of Force of Nature plus Savage Roar, which we do see in NoTomorrow's hand,
and it's discounted for 8 mana.
Right, so it can generate the 3 charge treants. They're each 2/2, and then Savage Roar gives everything +2 attack, which is 14 damage from no board whatsoever.
Right. That's the magic number. But you usually play that around turn 9, or sometimes turn 7 if you're far enough ahead, because Innervate is sometimes a thing. But with the Emperor Tharson coming down so early in the game, it makes just the whole nature of it so unpredictable.
But Thijs does have the Dread Corsair, which it costs 0 because he had the Deathbite in play when he did play it. So he has not only generated a board of patrons, but has also been able to play a taunt to defend himself from NoTomorrow's possible combo. And he's at 18, so he's in a pretty safe position right now.
It's true, but going forward, NoTomorrow is not out of options just yet. He does have, he can clear all of it with the double Wrath and the swipe, I believe. There should be another way. Is there another way? Like Force of Nature, double Wrath, but that doesn't seem very good.
I think he wants to hold on to the Force of Nature, given the fact that he does have the Savage Roar in his hand.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So 1 Wrath, 2 Wraths, and the swipe. Patrons be gone.
Yeah. And this is, definitely showcasing the efficiency of the Druid removal. When they are able to draw a significant number of cards thanks to Ancient of Lore, you can sometimes afford to just kind of spew off cards here or there. Because that didn't cost Thijs that much as resources, and NoTomorrow had to use 3 cards to clear off those patrons.
Thijs, he only lost his first Grim Patron there, but what's important to know is that he has consumed both Death Bites, and that is, the main activator of the deck, because it's something you can set up 1 turn ahead of time.
Right.
Yep, the Inner Rages are still there though, and he does have that 1 Whirlwind. But for this turn, almost certainly he's going to just go for the biggest minions that he can, which would be the No Machine Vendor and the Frothing Berserker. Optionally, he could go for Frothing Acolyte and the Ghoul. Or the Fiery War Axe over there. Okay, using all 8 of his mana very efficiently.
I'm kind of surprised the Frothing Berserker actually survived the new patron list. How do you think that actually works with the deck?
The deck still does have effects like Death's Bite, like Whirlwind, that can deal damage to a large number of creatures at the same time, which can get the Frothing Berserker to grow very, very large. It's also just against some aggressive decks, be able to play that in turn 3. It can put your opponent in an awkward position because it has 4 health for 3 mana, which is pretty high compared to most things that you'll see coming down at that point in the game. So it can not only help remove minions, but then put your opponent on a clock, which is really a dangerous situation for a lot of aggressive decks when they're forced to react.
Yeah, the 4 health on it is absolutely massive. Most of the early removal, like Wrath, Dark Bomb, Frostbolt, all of that deals 3. And if it only deals 3, then it's going to stay up and potentially give an extra card through a Battle Rage.
And it's just a very scary minion. Like right now, it's a 2/4, but you don't look at that creature as a 2/4 right now.
No, it's not a 2/4. It looks like a 7/4 right now, except that you cannot pick Game Hunter. And NoTomorrow going for the combo just to clear. Wow.
Well, he's got to do it. It prevents extra draws from the Acolyte. It prevents the Frothing from doing any crazy shenanigans. And he's able to push for a little bit of damage.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. What a draw.
That is a very strong draw from Thijs there. The second Grim Patron. He does have the Unstable Ghoul and Whirlwind, so he can potentially set up the Unstable Ghoul right now, so that if NoTomorrow plays something that he can attack that into, he can play the Grim Patron next turn and get an extra card from it. He has enough mana, I believe, to play... Yeah, he can actually play the Ghoul, Inventor, and Acolyte if he so chooses.
Actually, I think he might just go for the Patron. So he's seen 2 Wraths already. He saw 1 combo, 1 swipe. So if he goes for something like Grim Patron, Unstable Ghoul, and the Whirlwind, like what can really go wrong?
Yeah, the only thing that can kill that, I think, is another combo or Keeper plus swipe.
But he's going. Oh, there's Gromash. That's not something that we always see in a patron list, but it is one of the newer lists. So I think it's a good inclusion. Very strong.
Yeah, I think it's specifically for decks like Druid, the mid-range style decks that have a lot of back and forth game where you just need a little bit of points of damage in the end.
Yeah, it gives him the reach to potentially end the game directly from his hand without that Warzone Commander, which obviously doesn't work the way it used to.
Well, what I'm seeing right now is the end, actually. That Ghoul, that's going to survive. There's nothing that can kill it anymore, and that's going to act as a Gromash activator.
It does look like Thijs is going to be able to close this game out next turn thanks to the charge damage from that Gromash.
Yeah, Grim Patrons in the very first game after the changes to Warzone Commander. Wow.
Yeah,
this is really impressive stuff just to see the deck and it works so well too.
Yeah, I mean, the deck is still, the card Grim Patron is still very powerful, and the sort of interlocking pieces of Acolyte of Pain and Battle Rage and all those effects. I mean, what really happened in this game was Thijs was able to generate so many additional resources thanks to Battle Rage that even though NoTomorrow was able to really keep up with his Grim Patron start, he wasn't actually able to keep him off of being able to actually draw to just this right here, the Grimage, and enough damage he has to just end the game.
All right, well, Thijs is going to be our winner of the first game of the tournament. Is this what we can expect for the rest of the tournament, you think?
I don't think anyone else is going to win the first game of the tournament from here on out.
Okay.
Yeah, that's going to be...
Well, I mean, is this kind of like a rolling thing? I mean, Thijs' strategy seemed to have paid off. I think he's probably the favorite to win. If his lineup is targeting one specific thing and it decisively wins the first game already, it seems like, you know, things are not looking good for NoTomorrow.
Yeah, that was certainly a big one. He does still have that Mage and the Priest, but he was extremely confident in the Priest. I do not know what cards exactly he's playing, but he was very confident playing it against NoTomorrow. The Freeze Mage, if it's a Freeze Mage, the Mage might be a little bit scary against something like a Druid. If he's Thijs is a known Freeze Mage player, so I would expect it to be that.
I was going to say, it's Thijs.
But,
it's Freeze Mage.
It should be
I mean, let's be
yeah.
realistic here. Thijs is a player who has a ton of experience playing Freeze Mage, and I have to imagine has made a number of adaptations to the deck based on the metagame he expects here. But that is a very strong deck against aggressive decks. Though, against NoTomorrow's lineup, both Hunter and Druid are decks that can give Freeze Mage a hard time.
That is true. And in the Hunter, there could potentially be flares. Some players like flares, so that could be a huge problem if you have an Ice Block and Ice Barrier.
In particular, given the popularity of the Secret Paladin deck, the Mysterious Challenger Paladin deck, I have to imagine that Flare is a card that we may very well see from Hunter decks in this tournament.
Could be.
Well, I mean, that's something we can talk about too. Like, the class distribution seems a little bit one-sided, where a lot of the Asian regions were bringing this Secret Paladin, but very few of the European and North American players actually. I think there's only one player that brought a Secret Paladin.
Yeah, I don't know why is that. Why do the Asian players favor?
I don't know, but the interesting thing is, if the Asian regions were bringing the Secret Paladins, they probably expect their opponents to as well. So the inclusion of Flare just seems all that more likely.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to know really what the other people are going to bring to this. The Patron or the Warzone Commander change is only 1 week old, so there's a lot of guessing that has to be done in what you expect to meta to be like. The Paladin has some strong matchups, has some weak ones. If you expect it to be good against a lot of decks, then you bring it. The Europeans and the Chinese players made different calls here, and it's going to be exciting to see what works out.
I mean, it will be particularly interesting to see the deck and card choices the players do make, particularly given that this is the first big event, really, that is featuring the metagame after the change to Warzone Commander. And it was such a defining card for so long. Seeing how players react to it will be really exciting.
All right, well, Thijs does take the first game. Let's just have a few words from him so he can give us a better idea about why he plays this great game so frequently.
The motivation of me is, it's something that was always already with me. In every game I played, even if it was just football or just a small game with friends, I just always look for perfection. I play it for fun. Yeah, it's just how my personality is. I'm just enjoying everything I do, and that is the biggest motivation for me now.
All right, well, the players are just about ready to go in the second game. Now, NoTomorrow, apparently he's a player that fidgets a lot. It seems like he's very nervous from what I've been reading about him, but we're starting to see a little bit of that. But from his opening interview, he seemed like, you know, stoic. He's like, he's got it, you know?
Oh, yeah. But, I mean, being down 1-0, it's a bad feeling. It's a bad way to start things off. But it is a best of 5. He didn't lose the series yet. He needs to forget about the first game and just go forward.
All right, well, he does go with the Druid again. Thijs is playing his Priest. This is the only Priest of the tournament, but it doesn't seem that unlikely of a class to pick for me. Well, I mean, what's your take on this, Kibble? You play a lot of this class.
I do play a lot of this class. I play a lot of these things that Thijs has in his deck here, these dragons. So he mulliganed them all away, sadly. But no, I think Priest is a very powerful class. In particular, I think Dragon Priest is a very strong deck if you do expect a lot of aggressive opponents. It's one of the best decks at beating decks like Hunter, decks like Zoo Warlock, decks like Secret Paladin. You have a lot of tools to deal with these sort of early game and mid game minion based decks.
Now, one thing I'm wondering is, before the TGT expansion made this Dragon Priest very popular, people were playing like the Deathlord Velen's Priest to combat that exact same thing. What advantages does the Dragon Priest have over a deck like that if that is your goal, which, I mean, Thijs seems to have that goal?
I mean, the biggest strength is really the fact that you can also be a proactive deck. The big problem with the Deathlord Priest decks is that they're fundamentally reactive. So many of the tools that you have in your deck are just going to be responding to what your opponent's doing, whereas Dragon Priest is able to play strong minions starting on turn 2. And that allows you to put a lot of pressure on your opponent, even if they aren't playing a purely offensive strategy.
Yeah. Dragon Priest has some of the most stat to mana efficient minions in the game. Like getting a Verminous Rage and 2/4 Taunt on turn 2. It's quite amazing. It can be difficult to remove. And Priest also has the buffs to follow it up in form of the Velen's Chosen or the Power Shield, which makes the minions extremely difficult for the Druid to handle.
So the Priest hero power in particular is at its most effective when you have minions that you're able to support with it. When you're able to really sort of snowball an advantage on the board by playing a strong minion and be able to kill your opponent's minions and then just heal your minion that's left. You effectively gain incremental advantages every time you're able to use that to kill multiple minions with one minion.
Right, right.
Oh, NoTomorrow going for the early Emperor here, but Thijs does
He is going to get punished.
Thijs has multiple ways to deal with it.
Yeah, I think the Velen's might be a slightly cleaner way, but maybe not. Maybe not.
It's interesting because Shadow Word Death doesn't have that many targets against Druids. Against Druid decks, you'll generally see the Emperor. You'll sometimes see Sylvanas, Dr. Boom. You do have the big Ancients, but often I think here, killing this guy with the Valence Chosen allows you to potentially save that Shadow Word Death for a position where you can't get that kind of board swing from that Valence Chosen later on.
Yeah, the Valence Chosen is a little bit situational at times, and this was a fairly good situation to use it. And in case that NoTomorrow cannot deal with this minion right now, which, looking at his hand, well, he can charge the Druid of Claw into it, but it's not all that efficient. I think Thijs is kind of getting rewarded for choosing this path.
Also, I feel like Shadow Word Death has a lot of removal in the game. Just has a situation where in the late game, if you can Shadow Word Death and play something big, you just tempo out of control, while Velen's can, very rarely actually do that.
Yeah, that is true. Like something like Ancient of Lore, that is 7 mana for the 5/5, and the removal for it only 3 mana, so that leaves him with 4 extra, which allows playing something like a Twilight Guardian on the same turn as dealing with it.
Yeah, that's one of the very powerful things, again, about the fact that the Dragon Priest deck is very proactive, that you're able to put your opponent in a position where they have to deal with the board that you have, and then you're able to use things like Shadow Word Death to remove their minions and just keep pressuring them as well.
My concern is here, not attacking seems like the best play, but that is going to get punished by the Keeper.
If NoTomorrow does choose to use his turn here to Keeper that Cleric, it's actually still not that bad for you, is the thing. Like, if he did attack, his minion would be left with 1 health, and then he could potentially get swiped off. If he attacked the bear into the Twilight Guardian and just used swipe, he would kill the Dark Cultist completely. Here, if he does use his turn to Keeper this, he can't get past the Twilight Guardian either.
I don't think it's actually that good of a Keeper. He's at 5 mana.
Right.
At 5 mana, you never want to Keeper, really. You want to do it at 4 or at 6 when you can also cast something else. And another thing about this Keeper is that it's the best card to Cabal Shadow Priest as a priest.
Yeah, you're going into turn 6
Did he really have
as well.
a better option? Like,
probably not. We can't blame him for this, but still, Thijs is going to pull even further ahead with this Cabal Shadow Priest.
I mean, he's going to be able to attack his 2 minions into the bear and then Cabal the other minion, leaving him with the only minion on the board.
Yeah, it's just some bad news for NoTomorrow.
Yeah, looks like Thijs' strategy is really paying off here. Just anti-aggro is the lineup, and it makes it so in the Conquest format, a lot of the powerful decks these days are very aggressive decks. So it not only punishes the top tier decks, but it punishes really any player running any one of those decks.
Looks like this is going to be the turn that we were talking about earlier, where he will be able to use the Shadow Word Death and extend his lead on the board.
One interesting thing that I actually just noticed was that Thijs has a Zombie Chow in his hand. He actually just drew a Zombie Chow, and this is a deck that already plays Twilight Whelp. It already has 2 copies of a 2/3 for 1, effectively, that you can play. Thijs is very heavily targeting aggro decks with this lineup if he has Zombie Chow in this deck as well.
That is a very unique choice. We don't see, almost never see both the Zombie Chow and the Twilight, well, like you mentioned, but it's just like kind of strengthens the overall strategy of beating those aggressive decks, like the Hunter. It's very important to start on turn 1.
Now, the Priest is also known as a class that has very little room to actually put cards in that you want. So, if you have Zombie Chow in, what do you actually take out? Would you consider even a Northshire if you're really targeting aggressive decks?
I think you'd still keep your Northshire Clerics in. Just you want more 1-cost minions.
Yeah.
I have to imagine that he may have cut things like Light Bomb that some decks play. Perhaps Chill Maw is another of the sort of late game cards that often sees play. That if you're looking specifically to target aggressive decks and get on the board as fast as possible, you could remove.
I think Light Bomb is a reasonable card to cut in this type of strategy, because in general, that's the kind of card that you need when you're behind on the board. But the strategy with this deck revolves around never getting to be at that position and just trying to keep the board under control up to that turn 6. So you never should need it.
This is kind of hard.
This board is certainly under control.
Yeah.
I mean, Dr. Boom is about the best play that NoTomorrow could have made this turn, and he's still not really in great shape.
No.
And it looks like Thijs is actually just choosing to push for face damage here.
Yeah, this is a little bit dangerous. With the Emperor Tharson so early in the game, there might be a 6-creature combo if he really chooses to ignore all of this.
I think he's going to clear the Boom bots, but for the Dr. Boom, the trade seems so inefficient. I would expect him to clear the Boom bots, but leave the Boom up. It's a risky play to leave those up, so I think he was going to go for it, just to play around Savage Roar a little bit.
What roar? What was that?
All right, well, that Boombot was fairly harmless.
Yeah. Let's see where is this one going to blow up too?
Yep, playing the Twilight Guardian first. He wants the Boombot to hit that instead of something like the 2/2 Twilight Bolt.
I think he really just wants to protect the Zombie Chow from being killed, because granting 5 HP here would counterfeit lethal in a lot of situations.
Yep, it seems like he left one Boombot up. Not too scared about that. The Roar wouldn't do all that much. He knows that the combo is possible because of that Emperor that was played earlier, so it could be done with just 8 mana. But what can one Boombot really accomplish?
A lot.
A lot?
Yeah.
They've certainly accomplished a lot against
The potential is really high for a Boombot.
But, you know...
Yeah. The Death Rattle goes off anyway, so it's only 2 extra damage from there.
Well, if there were a Savage Roar, it would represent potentially more damage. But with the 3 taunts up, none of which have 3 health, it would be very difficult for it to be particularly meaningful. If he did have Force of Nature and Savage Roar, he could maybe actually get that through to something. But it does take out the Twilight Whelp.
Yeah, but
R.I.P. Whelp.
What he wanted to take out was the Zombie Chow.
Right.
He's down to 10 HP, and that's not good.
Yeah, I think he has the taunt up, but is that good enough? I think it is. The Drew of the Claw and taunt just saves him from lethal on the board.
Yeah, but it does.
But it does not save him from being incredibly far behind in this game.
Yeah, I think he's dead to Holy Nova.
Dice only with 1 card in his hand, but what?
He does have Light Bomb in his deck.
Is that going to? I think that might be it.
Yeah,
he can heal up he can heal up the Cabal first. That should seal the game.
That should do it.
Yeah, I believe that actually should close the game.
That is lethal right there. We'll see if he can spot it. So use the hero power on the Cabal Shadow Priest, then go for the Light Bomb. Trade in a 2-attack minion, not the Zombie Chow though.
Something that isn't Zombie Chow can kill the bear. And then he should be able to close the game out right here. So Light Bomb.
Yep.
Not really its shining moment here.
Double checking, triple checking.
But it is enough, and Thijs is able to get the final damage in and take a 2-game lead over NoTomorrow.
Wow. That Priest is coming out really strong. I didn't expect the game to be that one-sided.
Dragon Priest, 100% win rate in this tournament so far.
Well, Saviz understandably was not quite as biased towards the deck, but I had faith in it. I think most players have faith in Dragon Priest. It is a deck that is fairly dominant on ladder, specifically because it does counter a lot of the aggression. Now, Thijs' remaining deck, again, in Conquest, you have to win with every single deck, is most likely Freeze Mage. So, I mean, Freeze Mage actually does surprisingly well against some of the lineup of NoTomorrow, but maybe not against some of the other decks. Like Druid, it seems like it might struggle a little bit. Hunter, it's not overwhelmingly favored in some situations, but Paladin, I'm feeling pretty good about that one.
I mean, it depends on the Paladin deck. The more aggressive Paladin decks can put enough pressure on the Freeze Mage that they are able to win. Mid-range Paladin decks do tend to really struggle, but I have to imagine that NoTomorrow is playing a more aggressive version, just given what we've seen of his lineup and what we've heard about him in the past.
Yeah, based on the guess that it's going to be a Freeze Mage, I think that he's going to be Thijs is going to be the underdog going up against the Druid. Against the Hunter, depending on if there's Flare or not, it could go either way.
Interestingly, I think if the Hunter deck, the less aggressive the Hunter deck is in a lot of ways, the better a chance it stands. I think mid-range Hunter is a much stronger deck than Face Hunter against Freeze Mage, just because Ice Barrier is so hard to beat when your deck is just full of 2/1s and direct damage. If you do have cards like Lotheb and Savannah Hyman, you're able to get a lot of value out of the individual big hits that you get.
Yeah, the Face Hunter has very limited amount of damage, and when one Ice Barrier comes up or two, it might not add up to enough before the Alexstrasza comes down.
And Lotheb, it just is a card that you can't run in a Face Hunter list, and it's just so powerful against Freeze Mage. Often you just absolutely counterfeit their next turn, and Freeze Mage really is a deck that goes one turn at a time. You know, there's very little cheating
involved. A couple of very, very crucial turns in there, and Lotheb is a card that can definitely seriously disrupt them. So, but yeah, I mean, if you're in Thijs' position here, you've got to be feeling good. You're up 2-0, and you're looking at what looks to be a very aggressive lineup with a deck that is generally very solid against aggressive decks. I do think that this is his deck that is the most under threat of losing number of these matchups. I think that the other matchups for his decks are likely a lot stronger than this one, though.
I think so too. That might be the weak spot, but he will get 3 chances to win that game.
Yeah, 3 is quite a bit. Now we've highlighted Thijs quite a bit here. He has taken the first 2 games. We saw what his motivations are to play, but let's hear some more from NoTomorrow to see maybe what he'll do if he'll end up winning in the end.
如果我得的比赛赢得了夺了冠军，然后有很多奖金的话，我会选择请大家吃个饭呀，然后留着存着找媳妇儿娶老婆。
That's a good philosophy there, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you get some exposure for the event, right? I mean, he can be a winner in the end no matter what.
It's true. It is true. You know, these players have come a long way just to be here.
That's right.
So even if they do not in fact emerge as the champions, it's great for their future Hearthstone career.
Definitely getting a lot of exposure, maybe getting some invites to like some kind of special events afterwards. So they're getting second place, 50,000, not too bad.
I mean, both these players can still very easily win the championship here. Thijs is in better position, but NoTomorrow, he's not out of it yet. Looks like he does choose to switch to his Hunter deck.
Yep, and there's the confirmation. So Thijs is. Well, I would say that it's a freeze match just based on this. It
Really?
could be some kind of weird duplicate thing, but yeah, I think it's safe to say.
Yeah.
So Thijs is playing the freeze mage, and
the Archer Horse Ride is also
good.
somewhat revealing.
Yeah, it
It's
signals Face Hunter.
Or some sort of hybrid style of Hunter deck.
Okay.
We did see the Snake Trap, and Snake Trap's generally not a card that you'd play in a pure face style of Hunter deck. One thing that is kind of surprising to me is that NoTomorrow has chosen to play his Hunter deck here rather than stick with his Druid deck, because these players are going to be facing other opponents with these same lineups throughout the week and into next weekend.
There's a whole tournament. They actually cannot change decks at all.
Right.
Yeah.
So because he's going to be playing his next opponent with the same lineup, if he was going to lose with his Druid deck, it feels like to me that maybe he just plays Druid first and doesn't expose any more information.
Yeah, he could have kept the Hunter hidden, because now if there is some special cards, and even if there's not, even that is valuable information to see that there's no deck cards, there's no player.
Right.
So tomorrow he might be at
on the other hand, you have to consider that maybe he does actually have 2 players. So maybe he wants more information from the mage before he plays the Druid.
That is possible.
Or maybe, like his name suggests, he only thinks about today, not tomorrow.
I think it suggests something else. All right. Well, the Snake Trap is a bit of a curious one. It does seem to be a very aggressive list. So maybe it is Hybrid Hunter, as you suggested.
Misha comes out.
Yep, that means some extra cards for Thijs if he wants to ping the Acolyte.
Though picking the Acolyte for Thijs would leave him in a position where he doesn't really get to do too much with his turn. He could play the Blood Mage as well.
I feel like he cannot do too much with his turn regardless.
That's true.
Like, the most you can do is Blood Mage and, like, Doomsayer or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, he might want to want to wait with the Doomsayer to find that Frost Nova to do the combination where there's a better chance for the Doomsayer effect to go off.
What did you think about the opening sequence for Thijs? He actually had a hand with 2 Doomsayers and chose to send one back. Do you think that's unusual? For me, it feels like whenever I play Doomsayer against a Hunter, the first one always gets silenced. Even when I play on like turn 3, because they really want to keep that momentum up.
I mean, one of the interesting things against Hunter as well is that even if Doomsayer just dies and takes 7 damage doing so, it's 7 damage you're not taking.
Yeah.
So
it's quite valuable, but I can see it arguments being made both ways, because Thijs did not have any card draw in his hand at that moment. So if he got just, let's say, 2 Blizzards and the Flame Strike on top of those, it might be a lot of hero powering on turns 3 through 5.
And we see Thijs just play the Doomsayer here, despite the very high risk of it getting killed. You know, if his opponent has Eaglehorn Bow, which we see in his hand.
It's certain.
Yeah, it's going to die,
like
but
certain,
it is going to absorb 7 damage in doing so, which is a pretty big deal.
Yeah, not bad at all. So at 4 mana, NoTomorrow probably wants to use all of his mana efficiently here, so it could be something like Eaglehorn Bow into a 1-drop. Is the Unleash okay?
Yeah, I also think Unleash on 2 minions is
about as good as it
gets.
About
as good as it gets against Freeze Mage.
Though it is worth noting that you know, he can do that. He can also, one of the things that is an option here, he can actually just attack his opponent's face, hero power, and just get that 7 damage, not lose that 7 damage, lose his board. He is actually getting to a turn where he's still likely to be able to hit with his minions, though. Like, as you get into the middle turns of the game, where your opponent can start playing things like Blizzard or Flame Strike, in many cases, as the Hunter, you actually want to ignore the Doomsayers because your minions are about to die anyway. Here, though, he's just going to get some damage in.
Yep, it does go for the Unleash. And I personally, he's going across the base. That is so aggressive.
That is very aggressive.
All of those minions gone.
Wow.
I also like saving the Leper Gnome, because if there would be like an ice block scenario, that's the card you need.
Well, no ice block just yet, but there's an ice barrier. That's an excellent draw for Thijs here. He's down to 16 HP. He needs to start getting some back.
In particular, given the approach that NoTomorrow took there, just going sort of directly aggressive, using all of his damage in the face, that ice barrier and the Alexstrasza that Thijs just drew are likely to come up very big in this game.
Yep. 5 mana for NoTomorrow. Eaglehorn Bow hero power is definitely an option.
Yeah, you have 2 traps. You can get some extra mileage out of that.
Iron Pick Owl. He does not want to see a barrier come straight from Thijs' deck, or an ice block, I guess.
It's interesting. I have to imagine what his secrets are that he chose to do that. Does he have a freezing trap up?
I mean, if you're running Snake, you can be running any of the others.
A heal bot.
Wow,
it
makes perfect sense considering how Thijs has built the rest of his lineup to counter that and the aggressive strategies.
And that heal bot is huge here. It is going to help Thijs bridge the turns until he's able to get to that Alexstrasza. Particularly given that NoTomorrow committed so much to just direct damage to his face, rather than keeping his board presence established. Here, the Snake Trap.
Yep. There you go, and Thijs does have a full clear if he wants to go for the Cone of Cold Ping.
Yeah, but at the same time, you might go for a Blizzard because it's much more clunky.
That's true. It's really hard to play a Blizzard and another thing on the same turn. So yeah, I like Blizzard. It is better than the Cone of Cold.
This is not a value game in any way, shape, or form.
No, not at all. You go for the Horse Rider?
Yeah,
I guess you do.
Because you want to dump your hand to be able to quick shot and draw next turn. That ultimately leads into more damage, I believe, than another hero power use.
Should be, yeah.
Also because the Argent Horse Rider will not trigger an ice barrier this turn, but in the future it might.
It's worth noting as well that NoTomorrow's second trap didn't trigger, so it's not freezing trap. So his second trap could either be explosive or bear,
or misdirect,
or misdirect.
Very unlikely.
It's explosive or bear.
Yeah,
I would. Oh god, another ice barrier.
I'd just go with explosive. I think even bear is very unlikely.
Yeah, it should be explosive.
Probably
almost certainly. And this is an interesting turn for Thijs, because he would love to play the ice barrier. But if he plays an ice barrier, it is possible that NoTomorrow would be able to just kill him through it with something like a quick shot and a kill command in combination with the hero power.
Yeah, or just a low-cost beast and kill command would do it. Like,
that is also true. And Thijs is going to go for the heal, but next turn he will have access to the ice barrier, and for turn 9 there is the Alexstrasza.
Well, there's a bit more damage here.
This can happen, I believe. This is a lot of damage.
It is.
Another.
Ooh,
that is a brick.
The worst draw. It is, and we see that's not highlighted, so that's an explosive trap there.
Yeah, that is so bad. NoTomorrow right now. Not only that, but if he...
So now Thijs basically has to ice barrier and pray.
Yeah, he could also Arcane Intellect to try pick up that ice block.
That's true. That's true.
But if he does not find the block, the ice barrier is certainly going to come down. Let's see if he gets it.
Tinnitus, not what he's looking for, Mad Scientist. Nope.
Oh no, and he cannot kill his own
He cannot
Mad
trigger
Scientist.
it, no. He's 1 mana short of triggering his own Mad Scientist.
Thijs will have to put his fate into the barrier here. It's a rough spot. It's all gonna come down to this one draw for NoTomorrow. Because after the Alexstrasza is played, there's almost zero chance for NoTomorrow to make a comeback.
This is actually a little bit interesting. This means that he's not giving any credit for Flare.
Ooh,
Leopardome. Not gonna do it.
Nope.
And you see NoTomorrow with a little bit of a dejected look at his face. That Leopardome a little bit earlier might have been good enough, but just now it is not what he's looking for.
Thijs is really praying that there is no
just look at how stressed he looks.
Yeah, please don't leave. They don't have it.
He actually just has his hands together
Yeah.
against his chin there.
It's like, wow, it's so intense. He knows that if he doesn't die this time, the Alexstrasza should seal it up.
And in NoTomorrow's position here, he actually has to be wondering if he can even afford to attack. Because if that's ice block, he really wants to break it. But if that's ice barrier, it means that next turn he can't win with his hero power again. And it looks like he is going to play around the ice barrier, though he is going to be very sad when he sees Alexstrasza come down next turn.
Yeah.
And Thijs is going to start celebrating here. Oh, he knows
the dream
Alexstrasza.
Yeah.
Sure, he even has the barrier
Maximum
up already.
value.
He has the barrier up already. He will get an ice block from the Scientist. This is nothing but perfect
And
for
it's
Thijs.
so hard to get this final damage in from a Face Hunter deck, especially when your hand is dead.
So much damage.
Pretty much impossible. This ice block, this barrier.
Well, it's also your hand is totally dead. Your hand is worse than dead because if you top deck Quick Shot, you cannot draw that extra card.
Yeah, that second horrible. And we were talking earlier about how this is a matchup where the Face Hunter deck can often struggle to actually piece together enough damage because of Ice Bear, and that's exactly what's happening here.
Yep. It's also important to note that I believe Alexstrasza will only attack face on the lethal push.
No, I think you just go in. Like,
you think so?
Yeah, there's nothing too bad that can happen. He has the barrier, he has the block. I wouldn't be surprised to see either Antonidas or just a Torison and maybe a Fireball here. It's so much damage.
Okay.
We know that there's another explosive trap in NoTomorrow's hand, so if Thijs had that information, then he maybe wouldn't have done that. But it still would be a very close call.
Well, a kill command now would actually be pretty damn good.
Yep. How about Glaive Zuka though?
No.
Still facing down that
close.
barrier, and that Glaive Zuka again. It actually puts NoTomorrow in a position where he really doesn't even necessarily want to attack, and there he
does. Then
he attacks.
It's just going to heal Thijs for 6.
Yeah, and effectively attacking with that puts Thijs even farther out of range of any direct damage.
Yeah.
This game is pretty much all but over. I don't like to call them before they're actually over.
Yeah, but that's very little NoTomorrow can do in this situation.
There's just lethal on the board.
Oh, there is.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, well, then it's over.
Okay,
Aha!
yeah.
I was not early.
It was over. All right. Well, our opening match is going to go to the European.
Yeah, a decisive victory, 3 games to 0.
So Visa's prediction has so far been realized.
Yeah, I'm especially happy with the Priest to see how well it worked. Because I gotta, even though we are good friends with Thijs, but also that I like to kind of root for the underdog class, which in this case is the Priest. He's playing the only Priest, and what a shame it would be if the only Priest player would get knocked out early.
Yeah, we see.
Well, it is double elimination, and we see the Doomhammer there. We're joking a bit about it, but I believe the loser has to be hit by the Doomhammer.